So, Zach, how are you?
I'm doing well. It's been a good weekend. Worked on my motorcycle today.
Awesome.
Got some good seafood. Took an hour nap with my dog, and now here I am.
Good for you. Good for you. So, Zach, I do have this program called Dare to Tell, which we're on right now, and my nephew told me a little bit about you, and so I wanted to get your story. A little bit about. First of all, tell me a little bit about yourself before we go into.
Okay. So I grew up in Potomac, Maryland, um, right off Trevilla Road. Two loving parents, two sisters. Went to Lakewood Elementary School. Went to Wooten High School. But before high school, middle school, parents got divorced. It was a big, nasty divorce that my parents kind of dragged me and my sisters through. Um, and then I started to feel not part of anymore, really, because I stopped going around those friends that my parents had me grow up with and was going back and forth between Silver Spring and Gaithersburg because my mom picked up and moved to the Kentlands. And my dad moved in with his mom in Silver Spring. And so I lived with my dad, lived with her, and fast forward a little bit, I remember I was in middle school, about to go to high school, and the guys that I was hanging out with are like, "Yo, we need to start drinking so that we can build a tolerance, so that when we get to high school, we can fit in with everyone else." And I remember my first drink, it was a 30 pack of Milwaukee's Best, and it was lukewarm and we drank all of them. I threw up, made everything much better.
Mhm.
Um, and then I woke up the next day and I was like, wow, I can't wait to do this again.
Oh, wow. A 30 pack? How many of you guys were there?
Like three of us.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Yes, of course.
yeah,
Threw up and yeah, of course.
yeah. And then I got to Wooten High School, went out for the football team. I played my freshman year. Um, Discovered drugs, started smoking weed and drinking, and it was like a weekend thing where we go to different parties. We go to Churchill parties. I met Denzel. Um, it was a good time, and until it wasn't. I remember waking up and going to school every morning, smoking weed on my way to school, drinking Captain Morgan and Coke, walking up to class. Um, and school was no longer important. Um, the things that my parents had taught me early in life was no longer important. Just getting high and drinking was important because it helped me block out everything from beginning that I had gone through up
Mhm.
until that point. Um, I'd got in trouble with the law, had to do many inpatient rehabs, outpatient rehabs. I've been to jail. Um, I've stolen money from my family to get drugs.
So,
Um,
I don't mean to stop you.
yeah, in
How did
order.
it all start? Like the drugs and I mean, I know you started drinking and stuff, but how did it all start? Did it all start with the people that you were hanging out with, or how did it all start? If
So it was the
you remember that.
people. It was
Mhm.
the people that I was hanging out with. They
Okay.
like to drink, and I like to drink. And then the drugs, I found the guys who like to smoke weed that sold the weed, and then I really didn't start getting into like harder drugs like cocaine and Xanax and oxys until later on in
Mhm.
life.
Mhm.
But for my high school days and early college, it was just like a recreational, like a thing to fit in.
Mhm. So when it got to the harder part, now give me, if you can, whatever you feel comfortable telling me, a little bit more in depth of how you started with the harder drugs.
Okay. So think I was like 24 years old. I got a right inguinal hernia repair done, and they gave me Percocet to cope with the pain, and it made me sick, made me numb, made me. It was a lot more powerful than drinking and smoking weed. And I knew friends or people who I associated myself with. I knew that they had dabbled in Percocets, oxys, and I'd always tell them that I'm never going to do that because I saw the way it made them change.
Mhm.
As far as they would lose weight, they'd stop eating, they would throw
Wow.
up,
Mhm.
and they would change their ways. And as soon as those prescribed medicine ran out,
Mhm.
I then turned to those people, and then I started to really get heavy into oxys.
Mhm.
And I weighed 117 pounds soaking wet. I was stealing from my family thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of dollars to get high. Um, I didn't care about you. I didn't care about anything except that little tiny pill. That little tiny pill helped me escape reality, and I made my own reality.
Yeah.
I'd get high with my sister, my older sister, um, and it just took me down to a very, very dark place.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I mean, I didn't have a bank account, didn't have a job, couldn't hold a job. Most of my jobs during that time were construction jobs, working as a laborer, um, restaurant industry. I worked at probably 20 different restaurants in downtown Bethesda. All of them, I was always high and always drinking at.
Wow. So the manager never noticed? Your boss never noticed?
Oh no, they noticed. Some of them I was actually getting high and drinking with.
Mhm. Oh,
Um, just the restaurant industry is just a huge cesspool.
wow.
Um, Definitely not recommend that industry for anyone, and my kids in the future will never know that industry.
Yeah.
Um, and then the turning point was when one night, at this point, I was living with my dad in a house that he was renting in Silver Spring with my older sister. And
Was that the sister that you used to get high with?
yeah, my older sister. And then I remember I had oxys, weed, Xanax, um, cocaine, and then all those drugs I ran out with. I hit up this old high school buddy that I used to get high with, and he was breaking into cars. And I was in a blackout, was drinking more.
Mhm.
I was just following him around, and what I could remember is that he came across a big bag of crystal meth. And
Mhm.
that's something I never got into, never thought I would get into, and it was a lot. And that whole week of having that, I got high off of it. I sold it to people, and I remember waking up in suburban hospital in the psych ward, not knowing how I got there, just hating myself, not knowing anything. And I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Mhm.
And I had tried Alcoholics Anonymous before, a 12-step program, and I wasn't ready to give myself to that simple program. But they told me that there was meetings brought in there, and I decided to go in there.
Mhm.
And I met this guy named Jimmy and this other guy named Brooks, and they looked at me and they're like, "It's gonna be okay."
Mhm.
And I'm like thinking to myself, how is it gonna be okay? I'm sitting here in the psych ward. I weigh 117 pounds. I've got lines across my face. I've got nothing going for me. Nobody wants anything to do with me. I've burned all my bridges. How is it going to be okay? But I could tell that they felt good on the inside, by the way they were talking to me, and they looked good on the outside, and that was attractive, and that got me to listen to them.
Because usually what's on the inner man usually manifests on the outside. It
Yeah.
usually shows. So okay, so you were living with your father and you go through all of this. What did he have to say? That did he know, like, what were his reactions?
So let's just sum up my relationship with my father up until that point. I had stolen from his mother thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. I wrote checks to myself. I stole cash. I used credit cards. And he was the financer for my grandma. And um, it turned into a whole legal battle because my dad's brother brought us all to court with his wife. And I ended up being on probation for 5 years, supervised. My dad had to go away for 9 months. And this is after he had gotten out of jail. He was living in this house. I was with him. Um, I had just gotten out of jail. And because actually, no, that actually happened after. One day I was just getting high, and my dad knocked on the door and was like, "You're a drug addict." And I came out, I got in his face. He pushed me, I pushed him, he spit on me. He ran to the kitchen, grabbed a knife, came at me with it, started waving it, cut me. My sister was high off Xanax. She called the cops. Cops came. I got charged with second-degree assault because they said that I came at the knife at them, and spent 18 days in jail. My mom found out what was going on, bailed me out, went to live with this guy, Mikey, in Potomac.
Mhm.
Um, and then fast forward later on, I was living with him, overdose, ended up in the psych ward. So I didn't have such a great relationship with my dad up until that point,
Mhm.
because of the shit that I did in my past with drugs and alcohol,
Mhm.
who it made me become.
Yeah, understandably, yeah.
Um, Now, fast forwarding a little bit, that guy Jimmy and that guy Brooks gave me some direction. They're like, "You're gonna stay in the psych ward. You're going to eat. You're gonna get strong. You're gonna do the therapy." They had a treadmill in there. I was running, doing that twice a day. I got my weight up. They said, "You're gonna go to rehab for 30 days. You're gonna go to meetings. We're gonna go to meetings together, and life's gonna get good." So I was there for 18 days. This happened in 2017. Was there for 30 days, or no, 18 days. And then I went to Avery Road out inpatient rehab for another 30 days. I lived in a halfway house in Rockville for 6 months. And then I lived in an Oxford house for another 3 months.
So
Managed.
one second, when you were in the psych ward, so to speak, was your body going through any kind of withdrawals and stuff like from the drugs?
Oh yeah. I didn't come out of the bedroom for about a day and a half. I couldn't
Mhm.
eat. Um, I was constantly shivering. I was hot. I was cold.
Mhm.
Um, Diarrhea. My just it's something very painful that I hope nobody ever has to experience. You feel
Mhm.
like you just want to jump out of your skin and you just can't.
Wow.
But they give you certain medicines in there to help you cope with it, but it sucks.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Okay, so now you're at this other place from one house to the next. Continue.
Yeah, so the halfway house, it helped me build a foundation.
Mhm.
I lived with a bunch of recovering alcoholics and addicts in this controlled environment with people, or um, with staff who work there. And it really did help me for a while. Like, it helped me get a job. It helped me get my foot in the door of the industry that I'm currently in today and killing it. Um, it helped me build relationships in recovery. It taught me to not put anything in front of my recovery because I will lose it. It taught
Mhm.
me how to change people, places, and things. And then the Oxford House was just an extra step. Um, during that time in the Oxford House, I had like 3 years clean and sober. I met my wife
Mhm.
um, that during that time, and um, I was working 3 different jobs. I was working for a moving company. I was working for my sponsor, his restaurant. He owns all the Mama Lucia restaurants in the area. I was working for him doing deliveries, and I was working for a chimney company
So
in
you were
Damascus.
pretty busy because I heard busy is good when you're going through all of that. It keeps you focused away from, what you would normally do.
Yeah, I was super busy. I didn't have time to think about myself. It was constantly, how can I be of service to somebody else today to get out of my own way? Because that's what my sponsor taught me early on.
Mhm.
Ask somebody how they're doing, introduce yourself, shut your mouth and listen. And that's what I did for a long time. And I worked these 3 jobs. I humbled myself. I saved some money. I opened a bank account. I leased a nice vehicle from my sponsor. I was paying bills, starting to be a productive member of society,
Mhm.
right? And then I move in with my sponsor's partner's stepson in Germantown. And I'm still doing the deal, going to meetings, still working 3 jobs, seeing this girl. And I start to backtrack a little bit. I start to spend most of my time with work, not meetings. Um, and then I start to slip up.
Mhm.
And I remember reaching out to some of the guys that I used to hang out with
Mhm.
just to check in, see how they're doing. I want them to see how good I'm doing.
Mhm.
And, the longer you hang out at a barber shop, you're going to want to get a haircut. And that's what happened. I
Mhm.
relapsed, did pills again, and just was living 2 different lives for a little while.
Mhm.
And that started up in 2018, 2019. And then I moved out of that guy's house. I moved back in with my mom
Mhm.
because I needed to save up money to propose to my wife.
Mhm.
And I wasn't doing that with paying over $1,000 in rent a month,
Mhm.
paying $750 for a car payment that's a lease.
So at
And
that time, did the lady that you were wanted to propose to, did she know all the struggles that you had and that you had relapsed and all of that stuff?
yeah, so I laid it out all out on the table when I first met
Good.
her. I said, "Hey, I'm in recovery. This is the most important thing to me. I don't mean to seem selfish, but these are all the things that I've done in my life, and I need to just put that out there." And she
That's good.
accepted it,
That's a good
but
thing.
I hid it from her for the longest time while I relapsed because I was afraid. I was afraid to lose her. I was afraid to lose things in my life.
Mhm.
And I remember that I got honest with her one night because she knew something was up with me because I've been acting strange and I was losing weight fast.
Mhm.
And I told her I relapsed. I've been getting high. And she said, "Okay, how many times?" And I told her, she's like, "You need to call your sponsor and get honest." So I did. And that was in 2020. That was April 17th of 2020. I haven't had a drink since June of 2017, and
Mhm.
I haven't had a drug since April 17th of 2020.
That
Uh,
is awesome.
and I got honest. I started really leaning back into AA.
Mhm.
Um, and then that chimney, I was just working one job at that time for that chimney company. From
Mhm.
that time working for that chimney company, I got certified.
Mhm.
They relied on me. I was the first one to show up every day. I started to save some money. I had a lot of good stuff going for me. And then COVID happened and I got laid off. Um, and I was working for this guy for a little bit over 3.5 years. I had a lot of time to think about who I'm working for during that time. And I knew the owner of the company that I work for today from the rooms. So I reached out to him because it's the same industry. And he said, okay, you're certified. Yeah, let's give you a shot. So then the company that I was working for brought me back. And that whole week, I'm like, this sucks. I hate my job. They're not giving me a sales opportunity. I'm just
Mhm.
like the worker who's doing all the labor. That's not
Mhm.
what I want to do with my life because there's no money in it. Um, so it was really a God moment when I met my boss, because he had called me a couple times and then I saw him at the local Lowe's by my mom's house. And that was it. I was like, I'm putting my 2 weeks in. I'm taking a leap of faith. My
Mhm.
wife also got laid off.
Mhm.
And we're both taking a leap of faith, starting new jobs at the same time. We're
Mhm.
planning this big wedding. I'm living at home. She's living at home.
Mhm.
And what happened from there? Um, so I started crushing it. I worked for this company called Bethesda Chimney. I've been there for a little bit over 2.5 years, and I've done over $5 million in sales.
Amazing.
Um, and I've made a hell load of money since then. And I bought a house. I got married. I've got a
Awesome.
dog, three
Awesome.
vehicles. He's passed out right there.
Yeah.
Um, but during that time, um, before I got married, before I bought a house, before I moved out, I dealt with some really hard stuff that I don't know who has dealt with. Um, my sister OD'd and died
Oh my
in
God.
March of 2021. I remember I was working and we were working at the vice president's house of the United States of
2021,
America
last year?
last year. Yeah. We were
Wow.
working, we just finished a big job at the vice president's residency at the Naval Observatory. We're going to take a company photo there. I
Mhm.
got a call from my mom saying that I think your sister's gone. There's police and paramedics here. I need you to come here right now. And she was
Mhm.
crying. She was hysterical. And the adrenaline started pumping. I'm like, oh my God, how do I deal with this? I had my helper sitting next to me. I was like, you got to get out of my truck and just call Brian, the boss, and have him pick you up because I got to go. And I remember just speeding in my work truck going from Kensington to Gaithersburg. Remember calling my sponsor instead of calling the dope dealer and saying, hey, dude, I don't know what's going on at home, but I think my sister OD'd. I don't know how bad it is. Like, I need you. He showed up at my mom's house. 15 other guys showed up at my mom's house. I get there, paramedics are there, police are all over the place. And I walked into my mom's house and she was crying and she said, your sister's gone.
Oh my God.
And I remember hysterically crying and throwing up because of all the adrenaline.
Mhm.
And I remember my little sister coming over and being hysterical, and my fiance coming over and being hysterical. And I remember them carrying my sister out in a body bag,
Oh my goodness.
and it was a lot. It was a
I'm
lot to
sure.
handle
I'm
because
sure.
I was a little bit over a year sober, I mean, clean again.
Mhm.
That's a lot to handle.
Of course.
And
And
I
that
just,
sister was the one that you were
yeah,
close
that's
to,
the
that
one
you
I was
guys.
using with.
Yeah.
She couldn't find AA. She didn't think she had a problem. Um, and I remember leaning harder and harder into AA. It helped me show up for my mom more than ever. Um, show up for my sister. It just overall helped me become a better man, a
Yeah.
better brother, a better grandson, a better employee. And I focus my time in more important areas like family, showing up,
Mm-hmm.
work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then fast forward a little bit, I got married, super happy. Uh, we had a beautiful wedding. We went to Isla Mirada, Florida for 2 weeks. We found a house when we came back. We lived in a beautiful home, and everybody in my life couldn't have been any happier for me. And then before I left, my dad started to go through some medical things,
Mm-hmm.
and um, he had kidney failure,
Wow.
and my sister, little sister, I had to give her medical power of attorney while I was out of the state.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember a doctor calling me on my honeymoon saying, "What kind of quality of life does he have?"
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, he's living in an apartment in Silver Spring by himself. He can't take a shower by himself. He
Mm-hmm.
can't shave. He can't clean up after himself. He has literally bags and bags of trash throughout his entire apartment,
Mm-hmm.
dirty dishes. I remember he even had feces on his toilet seat that he couldn't even clean.
So,
Uh,
how did you find that out though?
so I would go there every once in a while and check in on him.
Mhm.
Um, I just I wasn't at a point in my life where I could take care of him.
Yeah,
I had to step up and take care of myself before I can be there for anyone else.
absolutely.
And it couldn't have happened at a worse time.
Mm-hmm.
And we had him go to some type of inpatient facility where they took care of him, and that's what he needed. He can't live on
Yes,
his own.
absolutely. Yeah.
And fast forward a little bit on my honeymoon, we decided to take him off of what do you call it?
Everything.
Dialysis.
Okay.
And after that, his body really started to deteriorate.
Mhm.
And I remember getting the call on my mother's birthday on September 3rd that my dad had passed away.
Wow.
And my sister, little sister, and I had saw him literally 3 days before. And I mean, he looked like he half of him was here and half of him was gone.
So let
Uh,
me ask you something.
sure.
I know earlier on you guys didn't have that great relationship. But from that point on, when you were getting your life together and so forth, and you were checking on him, did that relationship change? Like you did, was it a little better than it was?
It wasn't great, but I was able to show up and be there and
Mhm.
show up for him. I would take him out to breakfast or lunch, and we just sit there and talk. But it wasn't anything spectacular, but it was definitely a whole lot better than it was when I was getting
Mhm.
high and living with him.
Mhm.
Um, and my sister and I went to go see him before he passed, and
Mhm.
he knew who we were. He told us that he loved us, and I told him I loved him.
Mhm.
And the next day and a half, he was gone. And so I lost my sister and my dad last year.
Mhm.
And I walked through all of that clean and sober. And I just started to excel in work. I mean,
Amazing.
I put so much time and effort into work. Um, it has brought me to a very comfortable place in my life today.
Mhm.
Um, do I need to spend a little bit more time going to meetings and being accountable in Alcoholics Anonymous? 100%.
Mhm.
Um, but I have a structure today. I have a foundation today.
Yeah.
I'm not waking up thinking about how I'm going to get high, who I'm going to go call, who I'm going to go rob. It's like I wake up, I pray, I take a shower, I brush my teeth, I
Mhm.
get dressed for work, I turn the coffee maker on, I take my dog out on a nice walk so he can do his
Mhm.
business.
Mhm.
I come back in, I kiss my wife, I then hop in my work truck and I'm on my way to work.
See,
I'm trying
that's
to make a difference.
yeah. I was talking to Denzel and he's practically saying he practically said some of the things that you were saying. And I was saying to him, the greatest thing is when you have support, when you have a support system, somebody that will push you or be there for you, when you're going through the hard times, or if you ever think of, going backwards, they're there because we've gone through it with Denzel and he's at a much better place today. And he talks so much about you. So that's why I had to get you to come here. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm so happy for where you are today. I'm really happy and you have to be thankful because look at all that you have lost
Mm,
just last year, and I'm sure that alone will keep you on the straight and narrow, because that's where you don't want to end up.
right. Yeah,
Mhm.
no doubt about it. I mean, I have a strong network. I have a lot of solid dudes in my life that I can pick up the phone and call at any time. These are very successful businessmen with families, and they have a good amount of time being clean and sober and been walking this clean way of life for a longer time than me.
Mhm.
And it's as easy as picking up this phone, calling them, listening to them to see what they're going through, what they're up to, and
Mhm.
it gets me out of myself. Like
Good.
it's medicine.
Yeah, that's a good
Um,
thing.
you know,
Mhm.
if any normal or whatever you call normal person would have listened to what I had to say, they'd be like, "Wow, this dude's crazy! Like it's unbelievable."
Mhm.
Um, but that's how I lived.
Yeah.
Drinking and drugging was a solution in my life today, or was a solution in my life. And
Mhm.
today, I have a lot of positivity, a lot of positive people, and a lot of good, meaningful things in my life that helps me stay grounded.
And that's great. That's great. Um, what I wanted to ask you, and you probably have told me before, but sometimes, I forget. Um, were you able to deal with what was inside that made you start doing like the hard drugs and stuff? Because, a lot of times it's in here that we're going through stuff up in here that we're going through stuff that we turn, to other stuff to kind of numb the pain, so to speak, or numb what we're going through. So did you actually, were you able to deal with whatever it is that was going on?
Do you mean after?
Yeah, yeah, because you went to AA and all of that stuff. So, I mean, because I know of people that have gone to those meetings and but they still were not able to deal with what caused them to get to that place. You know what I mean?
I mean, I'm definitely comfortable in my own skin today.
Mhm.
Um, I've definitely had to make a lot of financial restitutions for my actions while I was using. Um, and some of those bridges are still burned. A lot of them are definitely repaired.
Mhm.
Um, the biggest bridges that were burned were family members. There's still
Yeah.
family members out there. Actually, I don't even consider family
Mhm.
that want nothing to do with me, but that's okay.
And
Um,
that's the thing that one of the things that we try to make sure that, like even with Denzel, we try to make sure that he knows that we love him and we're there to support him no matter what.
mhm.
We never turn our backs on him. And in society today, I realize that sometimes people want to keep you in your past. So whatever you did before, no matter how you turn the table and you become this awesome person in society, this person that's responsible and doing what he needs to do, that people will still hold your past against you, you know.
I don't associate myself with anybody like that.
Okay,
Um, I only hang around with a select few people.
good.
I've definitely changed the people, places, and things in my life today,
Important.
so that I can only go forward, not
Yeah,
backwards.
yeah.
If I do run into somebody from my past, I definitely uh, am alert. I
Mhm.
definitely need to know what I'm what I'm doing there.
Mhm.
And I have to watch myself.
Yeah.
Like I'll use Denzel as an example.
Mhm.
We definitely got high a lot together.
Mhm.
I relied on him and he definitely relied on me.
Mhm.
And he was definitely one of those people, places, and things I definitely had to change
Of course.
until I could see that he was actually living a sober and clean life. Because
Absolutely.
if one person's doing well and the other person's not doing well and you
Yeah.
collide,
Mhm.
something is going to happen.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
but I'm definitely very happy of how well he's doing and what
Yeah.
he's doing. Um, I'm just definitely very cautious
Yeah.
when it comes to people, place, and things from my past so that I don't go backwards
That's
because
right.
it's not necessarily the person, it's the
The
action,
environment and the
it's the
actions and
environment, and then
mhm.
it's the thought and the feeling from the
Yeah.
past that comes back, and then it turns into an action, and then
Yeah.
I'm making a phone call and I'm getting high.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's the same thing I talked to him about that, those people from your past, you have to know that that was it and you let them stay there. You now have to go forward and be a better
Yeah,
man, you know?
exactly.
Yeah. So, I still keep on him to make sure that and he has a wonderful stepfather. His mom, my sister, they've really been there for him and make sure that, he's headed in the right direction. So,
Yeah, no, he definitely looks really healthy now.
yeah, he
And
does.
got to meet on his
He really does.
body.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
definitely very happy for him.
yeah, yeah. And I pray that he stays that way. 'Cause he's actually now he gave his life to the Lord and he got baptized
Oh,
and stuff
nice.
like that. So so far he's doing good and it's one day at a time,
Yeah.
you know. And I'm so happy for you and say hello to your wife.
Oh, thank you.
I'm happy for you guys. I'm happy where you are today. And all I could say is keep doing it. Keep doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I really, really do thank you. So one more question. How for all the times that you went to jail, what's the longest that you stayed?
Sorry about that.
For the times that you were locked up, what's the longest that you ever stayed?
It was 18 days. It took 18 days for my mom to realize that I was there, and then I got out. Um, all those charges got dropped because it was
Yeah,
bogus.
yeah,
But there's other times where I've gotten arrested for possession,
yeah,
several times actually.
yeah,
I'd have to go to 7 locks, they'd release me.
yeah,
Um, and then I don't know, every time that I got arrested for drugs or alcohol, it always went away. I never had that fancy lawyer,
yeah,
just a public defender, and
yeah,
I would go to court dressed in a suit,
yeah.
tie, shaved. I'd have people come up to me asking me if I'm an attorney. That's how fresh and clean I look.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
then I would go up to the podium and they would drop everything. And
Yeah.
I can't explain how that happened. It
Well,
just happened.
yeah, it happens, and be thankful that that happened, because not many have that same luck or that same blessing for that to happen. And when I was talking to Denzel, most of the times when he said he got locked up was he got a slap on the wrist, and the last time he had to do time, so it made him kind of, I don't want to go back there. So yeah,
Yeah, I try not to think about those 18 days because it really breaks you down,
yeah,
feels like makes you feel like an animal,
wow.
right? When I was training my dog,
Mhm.
Zeus, crate training was part of his training. And I didn't really like doing it because it brought me back to when I was in jail.
Yeah, yeah.
And you are told when you can eat, you are told when you can
To
use the
wake up.
bathroom.
Hmm.
You are told to do what you can do and what you're allowed to do.
Right.
And I've always had a problem with authority throughout my whole entire life. But it
Yeah,
was a nightmare being
yeah.
locked up in a cage for 21 hours a day.
Wow.
Um, I try not to remember it
Yeah.
um, because it was definitely dark.
Of
time,
course.
but
Yeah.
I definitely humble myself and
Mhm.
know that is a possibility if I decide to take the wrong action
Right.
and make bad choices. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Yes, but I thank you so much. I thank you. I appreciate you telling me your story, and
sure,
hopefully, I would love to use this recording on my platforms if you don't mind, if I get your
sure,
consent.
yeah,
Yes, because your story can actually help someone else, because sometimes people do stuff, go through stuff, and they're thinking, oh, I'm the only one, woe is me, and all of that stuff. But there's so many other people out there that have gone through, you know, gone to hell and back and have moved on, have prospered, have become, a good person in society. So, yeah, but
yeah.
I do appreciate it. I thank you so much, Zach. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for telling me your story. And keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. It's been an honor. I appreciate you having me on your podcast, and I hope this recording does help somebody that's struggling or not struggling, and helps them overcome whatever they're going through.
Yes. And do you have any final advice? Or was that, or was that it? Keep
Final
the
advice to somebody out there: take it a day at a time. Keep an open mind. Try to be honest and willing, and trust in God. Trust in the process, and everything will work out. Maybe not the way you intended to, but
Mhm.
at the end of the day, you'll be taken care of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you for that.
my
Anyway,
pleasure.
I am so grateful and thanks again. Have a wonderful life. Take care of your family and yourself. Okay?
Sounds good. Maybe I'll see you around. I
Yes,
will. I'm definitely trying to stay in touch with Denzel as he is progressing and
please do,
whatnot.
because he really looks up to you.
Okay.
Yeah, he said you were one of his big help. So,
I'm
yeah, I give God thanks for that.
glad.
So take care of yourself.
You too. Thanks, Donna. Have a good night.